It is by far the worst scandal in all of sports. Do not compare the Baylor murder, because right when that happened, it all came out. This was something that happened 10 years ago and even 14 years ago. 13 years ago, I think, yeah. 1998, I think, was the first time they said it became aware, but it was just a local, shot right there. It wasn't national like it is now, which it's what it should have been in 1998. But of course, the people at Penn State, there's something not right with that university. And it might just be Penn State, but it could be every other college football program. I think this is my opinion on the Penn State University. Well, this is kind of my opinion on the college football programs across the United States. Is when you're getting ready for a great season, you think you can win 10, 11 games, make a BCS bowl game? I mean, you're pulling in $80 to $100 million to your university. And that's all that people are focused on, especially the president of the school, the administrators, the boosters, so they don't have to pay as much. The football coaches, the players. Well, the players are focused on it because maybe one day they'll get paid, but I mean, it's not like they don't get paid. They get their whole school paid for. They get money every week for meals. They get new clothes every day. I mean, I was blessed to have great parents, and they're doing fine with money, and they helped me out a lot with clothes and school and everything, but football players in the college are spoiled rotten. But that's another discussion. What I think happens is when a team is on the brink of greatness and they're about to win 10, 11 games and bring in $80 to $100 million to a school. I mean, them just playing in the Sugar Bowl, Rose Bowl brings in like $18 million bucks, and every home game brings in $10, $15 million. They have over 100,000 people at their stadium, and imagine if every ticket holder there paid $10 for a ticket. They would make over $1 million every game. But they're not paying $10. They're paying $60, $70, $80. So they're making $8 million right there. This doesn't include parking, concessions, selling merchandise, jerseys, hats, other Penn State stuff that brings revenue to the school. So you've got to take a look at that, because I think that's the biggest thing here. And it has an effect on not only the coaches, the players, but it has an effect on the administrators at the school and the principals, because they're looking at how much money a football program can bring in to build a new art building, build a new PE building, whatever. Start a new major at their school. This is all because of football. Football's the biggest business in college. It brings in the most money to the school. Football will never die. It generates more revenue than anything that college has to offer. More money than tuition, everything. But here's what I think. Before the season, they go over this. All right, we have a legitimate shot at winning 11 games this year, maybe competing for a national championship. Okay? This is their cover-up for bringing in $80 million. So they have all their coaches in there, not just the head coach and assistant coaches. They have the graduate assistant, Mike McQuarrie, in there, defensive coordinator, Sandusky, in there, and Joe Paterno's leading this whole thing. I think the principal's in there too, and all the administrators. And they're going over. If something bad happens, if a crime happens, and we don't care what it is, we have to find a way to cover it up, because we don't want anything distracting this program. We don't want a cloud over this program. We don't want something preventing us from making $80 million this year. We don't want to lose fans for our future. We don't want anything like that to stop us from making this amount of money. So I think that's the biggest thing, is before all this happened, they knew something, if anything would happen, they were going to cover it up. And this even it includes being a pedophile. It includes being a murderer. They would have covered. If you think if somebody covered up a child abuse, that somebody wouldn't cover up murder. Those are the two worst offenses you can commit. And Penn State, Joe Paterno's at the lead of this. The principal of the school, I don't know his name. I should have found out his name, but hey, something wrong there, okay? There's something that should tell you in your head that turn on right when you see something. This goes right to Mike McQuarrie, the graduate assistant who saw Sandusky raping the boy in the Penn State locker room, in the shower. Something in your head should turn on and say, wow, what did I just see there? I think I should call the police, because that was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. How many people see a child being abused or raped in their life? Come on. I mean, maybe 100 living right now. How many people you think have seen that? It's a very small number. And I guarantee 95% to 100% have called the police right when they saw somebody doing that. Okay? And Penn State is that 5% that didn't. So there's something wrong with that, okay? This is the worst scandal in sports history. It's not Joe. It could be. You could put the blame on Joe Paterno, but I put the most blame on Mike McQuarrie. He went to Joe Paterno, and then Joe Paterno went to his administrator. So Mike McQuarrie had the right to call the police. Joe Paterno had the right to call the police, but they didn't. Okay, so the whole school, there's something wrong with the whole school. The whole program, all the administrators, the principal. That's why they're all getting fired now. Okay? That's why I think they deserve the death penalty. And anybody that comes close to a crime like this in their football program receives the death penalty, because this is beyond explainable, It's indefensible. You cannot describe something like this to a grand jury and be innocent. You are guilty. All right? There should be 20 people in jail right in there, and that includes Joe Paterno, Sandusky, McQuarrie, principal, all the people that tried to hide it up. Because what if that was their child in the locker room with Sandusky? You think they'd feel the same way? All right, well, we're going to take another break. But those are my thoughts so far. We'll be back to finish the first episode, okay?
Too strung out on compliments, overdosed on confidence, started not to give.
All right. Last part of the show. We've covered that's exactly how I feel about this thing. I think they had conducted a meeting before every season. This is every program, I think, does this. And you've got to think of how much more stuff is out there besides just this at Penn State. Look at Oklahoma, look at LSU, Alabama, USC. All those great programs probably have the same meeting every year. We're competing for a national title, and we're bringing in $100 million this year. So If there's a murder, child abuse, I don't care. Go beyond what you believe and stop it. Cover it up, because you're going to make more money because of it. And more money equals more everything. More women, more everything. Bigger houses, bigger television sets, just bigger everything. And the people at Penn State followed with it. And there's something wrong there. This is the worst scandal in sports history. Okay? College athletic, just when you think college athletics couldn't be more different than NBA or professional sports, it's the same. Still the money-hungry leagues that you hate watching as a normal person, a blue-collar person, you know. And then you see something like this, and you're like, how can people be so ridiculous? These people have any feelings for anybody who's making $40,000 a year? No, because they're making $6 million a year. They're making $2 million a year to coach football. They have to work 5 months out of the year. And they make $5 million bucks. I guess there's recruiting and all that, but you know, it happens. I guess is what they're saying. It's life. Live with it. We're making more money than you, so we think we're better. And of course, covering this up makes them sound like, I don't even know what it makes it sound like, but covering this up was the worst choice by Joe Paterno ever. And about the fans that rioted outside of Penn State University after Paterno got, fired. Come on. A child got molested. A pedophile just took advantage of a defenseless child. And you guys are rioting over a coach that covered it up. Imagine if that was your son or your little brother or sister. Would you feel the same way? I know I wouldn't. The death penalty should be given to Penn State University. The death penalty should be given to Sandusky from the criminal justice system. But who knows what's going to happen. He'll probably get 3 years in prison and then be out on parole. Nothing serious, but there's going to be a huge uproar about it, and I'll be included in that conversation. This is the worst scandal in sports history. And you just heard my opinion about it all. And, thanks for listening, if you listen at all, but it's just my opinion. Type your feedback on here on Facebook. Let me know your thoughts, because I think every program that has a chance at winning 11, 12 games a year has this conversation with every person of the program. The principal, the coaches, the alumni, the boosters, everything. You cover up a federal crime. You cover up any bad things that could affect our program in the future. That could create a distraction to our players, because all they want their focus on is football, because they ain't focused on school. So, and they don't want any bad press coming their way, but now look at how bad the press is. I mean, this is worse than what they could imagine, and it should be, because this is unforgivable. It's indefensible in court. It's just everything wrong with this.